How can a guy rise from obscurity to become dreaded as the butcher of Uganda? Idi Amin's narrative is one of contradictions, charm and brutality, devotion and betrayal, a leader who promised unity but brought turmoil. What motivated this man to transform his country into a theater of injustice and violence? And what does his story tell us about the risks of unbridled power? Let us start from the beginning. Chapter 1, Born in the Shadow. Idi Amin Dada was born in the mid-1920s. However, the exact year and location are challenged. Most accounts locate his birthplace as Koboko, a community on the border with modern-day South Sudan. He was born within the Kakwa ethnic group, a small Muslim-dominated tribe. His father, Andreas Nyabira, converted to Islam and went by the name Amin Dada, but abandoned the family when Idi was a youngster. Amin was raised by his mother, Asa Ate, a herbalist, and his childhood was difficult and impoverished. During this time, Uganda was under British colonial authority, a land fashioned out of European countries' ambitions and afflicted with ethnic and religious conflicts. Amin grew up in this split society, attending an Islamic school and observing the impacts of colonial exploitation all around him. These early years molded Amin's worldview, combining his dislike of foreign dominance with a desire to overcome his surroundings. Chapter 2. The Soldier Emerges. In 1946, Amin joined the King's African Rifles, KR, a colonial military force. Standing over 6 feet tall and with an imposing body, Amin rapidly established himself. British officers praised his physical capabilities, while his colleagues noticed his personality. Amin participated in the Mau Mau insurrection in neighboring Kenya in the 1950s, winning promotions but also a reputation for savagery. By the 1960s, he had advanced to the rank of lieutenant, one of just a few Ugandans to do so during British rule. However, dark stories began to surface about his violent techniques, including allegations of massacres against civilians during cattle raids near the Kenya-Uganda border. When Uganda attained independence in 1962, Amin found himself in a new position, a high-ranking officer in the newly formed Ugandan military. His path crossed with another important character, Prime Minister Milton Obote. Chapter 3. The Coup. Amin and Obote struck a mutually beneficial relationship. Obote required the military's devotion, whereas Amin saw Obote as a means to gain power. They worked together on illicit activities, including gold and ivory smuggling schemes. However, by the late 1960s, fractures had formed in their partnership. Obote, suspicious of Amin's growing power, attempted to undermine him. Amin took preventative action when he sensed danger. On January 25, 1971, while Obote was in Singapore for a Commonwealth conference, Amin led a military coup. Tanks rolled through the streets of Kampala while radio stations broadcasted news of the regime transition. By the time Obote realized what had transpired, Amin had declared himself president. Ugandans, weary of political instability, first welcomed Amin, hoping he would bring order. They had no idea what terrors awaited them. Chapter 4. The Tyranny Begins. Amin's first days as president were marked by deliberate measures to consolidate control. He presented himself as a man of the people, attending public rallies and addressing ethnic and religious differences. However, behind the scenes, his regime became increasingly draconian. Political opponents, real or imaginary, were sought out. Thousands of people disappeared, and their bodies were later recovered in waterways or mass graves. Amin targeted ethnic groups such as the Acholi and Langi, fearing their allegiance to Obote. In 1972, Amin removed approximately 50,000 Asians from Uganda, accusing them of abusing the economy. While some Ugandans supported the shift, it damaged the country's economy, as Asians had previously controlled trade and industry. Amin's military friends took over businesses, many of whom had the necessary management abilities. The economy descended into anarchy, with inflation skyrocketing and essential supplies becoming scarce. Chapter 5. Global Spectacle. Amin was not satisfied with being a local ruler. He sought international notoriety. He declared himself conqueror of the British Empire and addressed odd letters to international leaders. He once wrote to Queen Elizabeth II and offered to marry her to strengthen Uganda's connections with the United Kingdom. His antics entertained some, but scared others. In 1976, Amin helped Palestinian hijackers divert an Air France jet to Entebbe Airport. The episode ended in embarrassment for Amin when Israeli commandos launched a daring rescue mission that freed the prisoners while destroying much of Uganda's air force. By this point, Amin had alienated almost all of his old supporters, including Britain and Israel. He sought backing from Libya's Muammar Gaddafi and the Soviet Union, but his unpredictable behavior and bad governance drove Uganda farther into isolation. Chapter 6. The Madness Deepens. Amin's paranoia increased with time. He surrounded himself with Kakwa soldiers and used the State Research Bureau, a secret police unit, to suppress criticism. Amin's savagery had no limitations. Religious leaders, journalists, and even members of his inner circle were not immune. Archbishop Janani Luwum, a strong critic of the regime, was assassinated in 1977, causing shockwaves across the country. Rumors about Amin's strange personal habits, including cannibalism, contributed to his notoriety. Some suspected that he suffered from syphilis-induced dementia, which contributed to his unpredictable conduct. Chapter 7. The FL. By 1978, Amin's hold on power was eroding. His invasion of Tanzania that year, meant to divert attention away from home difficulties, failed spectacularly. Tanzanian army, backed by Ugandan exiles, mounted a counterattack. By April 1979, they had taken Kampala. Amin fled to Libya before moving to Saudi Arabia, where he died in exile in 2003. Chapter 8. The Legacy of the Dictator. It is estimated that Idi Amin's dictatorship killed more than 300,000 people. His tenure left Uganda economically impoverished and socially divided. Nonetheless, his experience serves as a harsh reminder of the risks of uncontrolled authority and the lingering legacy of colonial abuse. What makes Amin's legacy particularly disturbing is not just the scope of his murders, but also the reality that he died in relative comfort, never facing prosecution for his crimes. What do you think about Idi Amin? Was he the product of his circumstances, or was his savagery unavoidable? Please let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and until next time.